welcome to Across the Bifrost, the mighty Thor podcast, where each and every week we explore the world of Marvel's mighty Thor. This episode is coming out the day after Christmas, so I want to wish you all a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, however you're celebrating, wherever you're celebrating, all around the 9 realms. I wish you a happy holidays, and I'm so excited that you are here for this episode today. We are finally touching on one aspect of Thor's world that I've wanted to talk about for so long, and that is the Jane Foster run of Thor. And for this conversation, I brought in 2 new friends to the show. Will and Josh are here to talk about this first story arc that Jane takes the mantle of Mjolnir. She takes the mantle of Thor, and it's just a great story. It's a lot of fun. We dig into all of it over the next few minutes. And as we get the episode started today, I just wanted to say one thing. Looking back at this first year of the show, we've almost done 50 episodes. It's been a great journey so far, and the journey is not ending anytime soon. I just want to say thank you so much for all of those who have supported the show, who've given, ratings and reviews, but also just support and encouragement. Our guests have been awesome. I've stayed in contact and in conversation with so many of them, and I've really enjoyed the friendships that I've started to build and develop through this show. So we've had a lot of great moments during the first year of this show. And then looking forward, this is the last show of 2021. And I just want to say that 2022 is going to be insane for the show. We have a movie coming out next year. We have Thor Love and Thunder coming out in July. In July. We have great arcs and comics that are coming out. We have great toys that are going to be coming out. We have great things happening in the world of Thor, and Across the Bifrost is going to be here for every single bit of it. So I want to let you know that 2022 is going to be a big year. Big year. If you have any friends you want to give the gift of Across the Bifrost to, this is a great time to do it because we're not slowing down. Next week, we are going to start off the year right. We are going to finally do a watch party for the original Thor movie, the 2011 Thor film. We are going to do an entire commentary on it. We're going to walk through it. Myself and a guest are going to talk through the entire movie. We're going to be those people in the theater that talk through the whole movie, except hopefully you've already seen the movie, and this just adds some flavor and some commentary to that film. We're starting off the year with a bang. We got some great interviews coming up after we do our movie commentary. We have a great way of leading up to Love and Thunder that I'm going to reveal in the upcoming weeks. We just got a lot of stuff planned for it, and the movie itself is going to be crazy. Hopefully we can get some great interviews along the way. All of this to say, I'm very excited for where the show is going in 2022. Very excited. I think you are going to enjoy this journey. I know I am, and I hope that some of that energy, some of that vibe can be transferred to you, and that you will enjoy the journey that I've mapped out. I don't got single thing planned, but I do know that along the way we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to learn a lot, and we're going to enjoy the world of Marvel's mighty Thor. So, all that being said, I appreciate you all, and we're not slowing down. So, in the spirit of not slowing down, here is our conversation with Will and Josh from Systematic Geekology on Jane Foster, the mighty Thor. We are finally going to talk about Jane Foster as Thor, done by the great Jason Aaron and Russell Dodderman, also Matt Wilson, and to the whole team that brought about this book. But there's an entire team that is going to bring you this episode today. So I am going to let my 2 guests introduce themselves, and then we'll get rocking and rolling with Jane Foster's Thor run. So introduce yourself, tell the listening audience who you are and why you're here.
Hey, everybody. I am Will Rose. So good to be with you. I am a Lutheran pastor in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, but also part of the host and co-host team at Systematic Geekology with the other guest who is with us at the moment. And Ryan is a fan of our podcast, and as I listen to this, and we're a fan of Thor, and so I am just excited to be a part of this and talk about Thor. Thor is one of my favorite superheroes. I have a weekly pull list at my local comic book store, and Thor and Jason Aaron's run's been a part of my pull list for a long, long time. So excited to discuss this book with y'all.
I am Joshua Noel. I am a co-host of Systematic Geekology with Pastor Will. I also co-host another podcast, the Whole Church podcast, where we just talk about like church unity and stuff. Over on Systematic Geekology, we're just kind of looking for Christian themes within nerd stuff. So this is right up our alley, just talking about geeky stuff that we love. I have kind of been like a side fan of Thor. I've always loved Thor's villains. And as such, Thor's just kind of there when his villains are there for some reason. And that's just how it works. Loki, Gore, the Enchantress. He's just got some of the best villains.
The Unstoppable Ulick, who I am a huge fan of. You couldn't be more right. He's got some great baddies. So just a little bit more background of how we got here, how this group of guys got here on this show today. I had reached out to one great comic book writer, Jason Aaron. I had emailed him and said, hey, I'd love to have you on my show. And he emailed me back 3 months later and said, hey, in 4 months, we can do that, counting the days. In the meantime, I was looking for different things to listen to when it came to podcasts, and I love a podcast that Will has been a guest on, Homebrew Christianity with Trip Fuller. So I was just scrolling through, not even thinking about comics that day, and I see Jason Aaron, and the title for the episode said something about worthiness and Thor, and I was like, am I on the right podcast right now? And I was like, and I started listening to it. I was like, oh my gosh, my favorite comic book writer is on one of my favorite podcasts, and I have to listen to all of this right now.
Yeah,
so
nice.
I listened to Will and Trip talk to Jason Aaron for like an hour and a half, and I just couldn't get enough of it. So I reached out to Will and I said, hey, I loved that interview, and we just got to talking. I found out about Systematic Geekology and loved that show. And it just kind of a spiraling, like, this comment led to this and this comment led to that. And now we're here.
Yeah. That was a fun conversation because it was at the beginning of COVID, and he had put something on Twitter. Trip was over here and lived in the Triangle for a while, and we had a few connections and mutual friends, and did some live podcasts together exploring faith and science. And we're both big geeks. We love Star Wars and comics, and bonded over that. And he moved over to Scotland to teach at University of Edinburgh. And so at the beginning of COVID, when everything shut down, these local comic book stores were shutting down. And Jason Aaron put on Twitter that he would, for charity, go on anybody's podcast, whoever won the bid to earn the right to kind of interview him and talk to him. And he would give all the money to like this local comic book foundation that would support local comic book stores. And so I messaged Trip and said, hey, how about this? And he gave me like a cap of what we could go up to, and we ended up winning the bid. And it was a good conversation. And Jason Aaron is not a person of faith. He's been quite open about being an atheist or doesn't believe in God, but he's very intrigued with religion. And you'll hear those themes within his work, whether it's original sin or worthy gods or unworthy gods, and prayer, and all those things are part of his work. You can see what he's kind of wrestling with and the issues. And I felt like that Trip's podcast is all about discerning what gods are worthy or not. And Jason Aaron's doing the same thing. So it was a really good conversation, and hearing his perspective and talking about his run on Star Wars and his run on Thor and the upcoming movie that's not too far around the corner.
Well, yeah. And then in this comic we're going to be talking about today, where you see these, like the contrast of the All Mother and the All Father, I'm like, that's where I see Jason Aaron's like struggle with religion. And I'm like, man, how he paints the All Father, I really believe that's how a lot of people see God. And unfortunately, I think sometimes that might be the church's fault, that we kind of make God seem that way.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that later, maybe.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there are some clear themes in here that I specifically wanted these gentlemen to talk about these issues with us, because there's a lot going on here, a lot of broad themes. So listeners, we are not going to like we normally do, we go page by page through a book or a series of books. We're going to go through these books broadly today, and we're going to hit on themes. We're going to hit on different things that we see coming out of this story, because this was a key transitional point for the character. In 2014, Original Sin had happened, and it left our protagonist, it left Thor in a very compromising position. He was no longer worthy to lift the hammer. This arc comes along, the repercussions of Original Sin come along, and we're going to expound on kind of what unfolded out of that when, as we know, looking a few years back, Jane Foster became worthy to lift the hammer and become the goddess of thunder.
With this movie coming out and Natalie Portman playing Jane Foster and her becoming Thor, I'm like, okay, if you don't know that that's the character, then wow, you've really been good about keeping safe for spoilers. But this story, like Original Sin, you know, in terms of like Original Sin, Marvel loves their event. So it's a big event written by Jason Aaron, and then the end is somebody whispers this phrase to Thor, and I don't remember what the actual phrase was. Maybe Ryan does. He can talk about that later when he talks about Original Sin. But so it whispers something in that's so small it's unreadable, and so he becomes unworthy. Some secret dark past. But this setup for Jane Foster goes way back, even to like Jason Aaron's run in Thor number 12 with that quick issue, Once Upon a Time in Midgard. And so there's this vignettes of Thor visiting Midgard and encountering humans and things that are happening on Earth, and he happens to stumble upon Jane Foster, his longtime friend, used to be girlfriend, and she's bald. She's going through chemo. She has cancer. And so he gets really pissed off. He's like, what? How can this be? I got to fix this. I'm a god. I'm divine. She's like, no, this is a real human experience that humans have to go through. So let me go through this. So this little vignette kind of set up something that he planted way back years before, jumping into this story arc and revealing which Thor is worthy, or Jane Foster becoming the worthy Thor.
We will jump in, and like I said, we're going to go broad brush strokes here. This was a big relaunch of the Thor title. It's a part of the Now imprint, where hey, so anyone can jump on now. We're gonna do this number one, and Marvel doing frequent number ones through the years, the last 15 years has been under fire. This number one gets us to an introduction of a great new approach to the Thor character. So we jump in, and really the first few pages, I'm just gonna breeze by a little bit. The frost giants show up on Midgard, and they're messing with a Roxxon. Roxxon is a very influential company in the Marvel universe. They've got their hands in everything.
Not Exxon. We're not talking about Exxon here. We're talking about Roxxon.
Or are we?
Did I say Exxon?
Or are we? No. I just like, that's what they're alluding to. But yeah, those pages are pretty neat, because it shows the big cosmic threat of the frost giants, and they're huge and they're intimidating. But also within those panels, you get attack sharks. Let me just say, attack sharks. Come on.
Yeah.
Jason Aaron loves his sharks. He loves his sharks, or space sharks, or whatever shark. He put in there attack sharks, of course. That's
so much
stuff.
Fun absurdity in this first issue of it. Like right now, you stopped on this page, and we have all of these gods on the moon, and I'm like, that's just fun. Like,
yeah,
chilling on the moon after the frost giants have attacked Roxxon. We go to the moon, and all the gods are sitting there chilling as begs the hammer, please move, please move. But he's no longer worthy.
He's defeated. He's defeated. Yeah. And
he's having. It seems like he's having an identity crisis. I'm like, man.
Oh yeah.
It's I've been there.
Yep.
Who hasn't? Knowing that there's an inner struggle in even him as a person. So getting to write Thor as having intense internal struggle and battle, like that might have been something that was almost maybe therapeutic for Jason Aaron. Maybe it was even hurtful for him to write a character who was struggling with crisis on such a deep, painful level. Freya, the former All-Mother, well, rightful All-Mother, but being usurped by her husband, Odin, the All-Father, they disagree on how to go about Thor being unworthy now. And it's they have a big argument, a blow up about this, which ends with Freya reluctantly being like, okay, whatever. Not whatever, but
and can I just, I know we got to keep going, but the phrase go back, Odin is trying to lift the hammer and he can't either. So he's not worthy either. And so he was complaining earlier that the All-Mother was coddling Thor. And so she's like, as he's trying to lift the hammer and he can't, she says to him, does this mean I've spent too much time coddling you as well? And I'm just like, it's such a good comeback and clap back at Odin for his brashness.
Yeah. And as a somewhat newly married guy, I gotta just appreciate the art of how they drew her face, that look. I'm like, man, I've seen that look.
I've seen that look. Yes.
I'm wrong all the time. I see that look constantly.
And honestly, Josh was referred to this in a little bit of our extra conversation, that like the parallel between the All-Mother and the All-Father is so key in these issues, and we'll follow that theme throughout. But they conclude on the moon, and Thor says, hey, I'm gonna go to the Hall of Weapons, and then I'm gonna go home. And we're meant to think that means Asgard. So then I'll just kind of summarize a little bit of what happens and the rest. And Odin says basically to Freya, you will submit to me because I'm the All-Father. And she's like, okay. And then we get this close-in shot of the hammer. And we're meant to think that she's at least thinking about it. She's pondering what it would be like. And then Malekith shows up back on Midgard at Roxxon. He shows up. He causes a lot of damage with the frost giants that he's in league with, and they're looking for something. They're looking for something important. Thor shows up. They fight, and then on one of the last pages, I'm just going to go. We are. As of this, on this recording, we are looking at the images, listeners. So if you want to go and look maybe on your own, issues, your own graphic novel, or if you're just content to listen to this, we hope you get a good description. Malekith goes and he cuts off Thor's arm. The frost giants help him dismember the god of thunder. So Thor's, I believe, his left arm gets chopped off.
Which is interesting because, he's not only humiliated, unworthy, now he's like losing body parts and body limbs. But if you go back to some earlier work of Jason Aaron, there's these arcs where you get like a present day Thor, a young Thor, and an old Thor. And the old Thor looks like he has like a prosthetic arm, and you're left wondering, how did he lose his arm? What is that story behind that? And so like years go by, issues go by, and you're like, what? How did Thor lose his arm? That'd be a funny story or a good story to hear one day. Well, here you go. We find out how Thor loses his arm.
I did not catch that until just now.
Yep. Thor's guy, he's now very right-handed. We'll put it that way. So Malekith pushes him to the bottom of the ocean, basically leaves him for dead, and he thinks that he's beaten Thor once and for all. And then we go back to the moon, and someone is able to lift the hammer. And on the last page, we see the new goddess of thunder. It's the first glimpse of James
which Foster. Early on, it showed when all the gods were on the moon, all these other gods saying that they tried and no one was worthy. And then, like you said, Odin wasn't either. So it's like
in that panel before, they changed the word for he is worthy to she. They add an S. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that either.
Look at there.
Man, Will's so much smarter than me.
I tell you, just studying the details.
It's really why Will is here, to catch all the things that I'm going to breeze by.
Yeah. The one thing I caught was that I didn't know how much Norse looked like English in the comics. It's crazy.
Right.
And like in the lettering, you'll notice in the lettering once lady female Thor starts to talk, her thought bubbles are in very basic. Okay.
Yeah. One of the most beautifully well done things.
So good.
Her thought bubbles are in regular English looking kind of like just standard words, but then when she speaks, it's in that very like Thor thespian dialogue, and it's in the more artistically done lettering that they've been doing on Thor for many years now.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a great duality even there, where she's even like she's thinking things. She's like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, and then externally she's like, of course I can do this. It's a lot of fun, and we get to see the first glimpse of her. And this is one thing I really want to get your guys' opinions on, as three dudes talking about how she looks as Thor. Her look is distinct and different, but still embodies the character. So I just wanted to know what you guys thought about her armor, her helmet, how she looks as the character.
I don't have a ton of comments. I'm gonna let Will take this one for the most part, but I will say I appreciate, because this is something where comics have failed so heavily on. Comics and anime are both terrible at this, but I appreciate that they didn't over sexualize it. I'm like, this is just, she looks like, not any more scantily dressed than like most of, Spider-Man in tights kind of deal. Yep. Like that's not any.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, she just looks like a badass. She's got her kind of hip out a little bit and confident. I mean, she, we'll see in the next issue her wrestling with, wow, she's even surprised that she's picking up the hammer and Thor. There's this duality, like you said, the humanist and the divine all wrapped up in one. Hey, how about that? And but she's lifting this hammer, lightning around, cape flying, wind, storm. There's a storm brewing. You can tell she's in the middle of a storm. But yeah, she's not overly muscular. She's not over sexualized. She is Thor. She's confident. She's a badass, and it's a mix of the kind of the ancient and new all wrapped up in one.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
I was going to do a couple comments with that. Is so one, just because in case people didn't know, the comics just do a much better job at keeping canon with whoever has the hammer has the powers of Thor. Thor doesn't have it, he also isn't Thor. So or at least it used to be a lot more like that. So it, that is sort of the whole thing with the hammer. She picks up the hammer, she is Thor. What I really like is this draws back to some of Marvel's origins to me, where like what took Marvel off was Spider-Man. That was their first big hit. And it was because you had Superman, who was basically a god, and no one relates to an alien god. You have Batman, who's a billionaire. And then here comes this kid who is just the most relatable kid there is, who's fighting these supervillains. And you're like, that's a character I can relate to. And this is a Thor that we can relate to. The other Thor is literally a god. I don't have anything in common with him other than some of his interests. I don't know what it's like to be a god. But this person who's really struggling with what it means to be human and also going through this change, I'm like, okay, now we have a Thor that I can relate to.
Yeah, good point.
And I think for the first time, we're going to see this, like Will said, and like we've alluded to, we're going to see this in the next issue once we actually get inside her head. That like Thor Odinson does not talk like the way she talks. Like her voice, I think Jason Aaron did a great job of this. This Thor's voice is distinctly hers. This is her. This is not someone cosplaying Thor. This is someone taking on the mantle and making it her own, which is something that I think could have been fumbled so easily. And I think it's something that that they really did a masterwork on. And one thing I want to head on before we kind of really breeze through the next few issues, and it makes sense why we would stick on this issue, because it's the turning point for the character. Russell Dauterman drawing Jane Foster as Thor is phenomenal. He draws her so dynamically, and she's got so much power, and there's nuance to her. But like both of you guys have said, she's not over sexualized. She's not an object to put on a piece of paper. She is being presented as a legitimate hero that people should want to emulate and look up to. And we're going to see this in a lot of the letter pages that we'll just hint at. But the letter pages, there are women writing in. There are young girls. There are teenage girls, college girls, older female comic book fans writing in like, this is my Thor. Like this is a Thor that I resonate with, and I think that's great. Like you have guys on this call talking about, yeah, we resonate with this Thor because she's human, and it's just great to see that more people can look at this Thor and be like, yeah, like I see her. I see her and I relate with her. So this first image of her I just love. I love so much. It's fantastic. We're going to jump over to the next issue, the Thor number 2, still from 2014. So this issue is a lot of establishing what this new Thor sounds like, what she fights like, and just kind of the vibe that she is going to be, how she's going to be different from the previous Thors. Guys, do you have any like?
Yeah, so here we are, issue 2, and I think with this issue, we see the new Thor pick up the hammer. This issue is one where we see how she is worthy, why she is worthy. She's able to take on frost giants. The Avengers are literally frozen in ice, no one around to help. They tried to come to the aid of Roxanne, but she shows up and she's like, okay, time to get to work. And you see how, and they're even skeptical, like, who are you? Who do you think you are? You're some, and they're being, sexist and misogynistic, but like, who do you think you are, little girl? And she's like, all right, time to show you. And then this, as you said, this inner monologue of her going, wow, I'm surprised that I'm doing all this. I'm both a god and a human at the same time.
Yeah.
No, she's great, and I like they show all of the Avengers that are like frozen and defeated by the frost giants here when she shows up, and I like, they do that so that it's clear that she is a rightful part of all of this, right? She's not lesser than or anything like that, which was important because people do the whole this is just an agenda blah. So I feel like as a writer, he also had to prove that this isn't agenda, this isn't this or that.
It's about storytelling.
Yeah. And when you see, which is why the whole all mother, all father parallel is so important, because when you see how that story plays out in the comparison of a good, caring God who's humble compared to this Odin who is this anger overwatcher, and then you kind of see the parallel of these two Thors and you're thinking, okay, this also relates to me.
Yeah. So Will, when you guys were talking to Jason Aaron, he spoke a little bit to this about how externally people were like, oh great, Marvel pushing an agenda. Oh no, we gotta make superheroes be, this is just it's like, what, Thor's a woman now? It's like, can you maybe recall some of how Jason responded to those criticisms?
Yeah, I think in our conversation we didn't go down that road too much. We just we kind of geeked out on like a number of things and try to get a little bit kind of his worldview and spirituality as well. But I think he's made the case, talking with us in other places too, that this was seeds that are planted way before. He's wrestling with the overarching theme, which God is worthy or not. So a new Thor has picked up the hammer, but it's not like he's put Odin's son Thor on the sideline. He's a big part of the story. Like we saw, he's a big part of issue 1, big part of issue 2. You follow his story and what he's wrestled with all the way through this. So he's not kicked to the sideline or retired or killed off. He's what his identity and his identity crisis is being wrestled with in this issue. And so you're lifting up another hero that he had planted years before in Thor issue number 12 and other issues. And the whole idea of representation, comics have long been a bunch of white males with capes and spandex on, and we're in an era where it's not just like the wives cooking in the kitchen anymore. They have careers, they're heroes, they serve in the military, they're cops, they're soldiers. We're in a different era, and so comics go along for that ride of representation and how they relate to their audience and readers as well.
Yeah, and I won't do my whole rant here, but I do have to say comics have always had an agenda. The whole idea that a lot of people want to complain that, oh, why do they have to include these Captain America started specifically to try to encourage America to join World War II. Like that's as much of an agenda as you could possibly get. X-Men are all about the LGBT community and racial justice from the beginning. Like it's like none of this is new.
Yeah, Green Arrow and Green Lantern, their run talking about drugs and drug abuse and race and racism, big part of the 60s and 70s. So yeah, there's issues that are in our society that need to be processed and worked through, and good storytelling does that. And this is happening here, which later on, when we find out who this is and what she's really wrestling with, a big stumbling block of faith is the problem of pain and suffering. And to have a real human wrestling with cancer and chemo are big questions that people wrestle with, and legit as well.
Yeah, and really, I think one of the shames was because I bought this run. I have this run in a long box somewhere and in frames places, and I loved this because it was telling a new story, and I was excited about it. But what I heard, the criticisms that I heard were like, well, I'm not going to read that. Like if Thor's a woman, I'm not going to read it. It's like, okay, then you've given up the credibility you have in this argument, because you don't even know what this new Thor's about. You don't even know what she's going through, what she's struggling with. And what if I kind of went on a little bit of a I don't want to say it. I went on a little bit of a rant with a buddy of mine the other day because he was talking about the thing about Jonathan Kent over in DC Comics right now. Right. And how that started this firestorm of like, oh, what we've got, gay superheroes, bisexual superheroes. Here's the thing: most of comics, guys like me, have no problem about the existence of aliens, interdimensional travel, time travel, all this kind of stuff. But a female Thor, a gay superhero, like, oh my gosh, like, quit pushing your politics in my comics. It's like, hey, we believe some pretty ridiculous things when we approach comics, but what if people of any kind of person could look at a comic and say, hey, I can see myself in that comic. I can see my struggle. I can see my life. I can see my ups, my downs in that comic. And I know we're putting a lot on Jane here, but a lot of the criticisms of her were very like, this is just trendy comics. Like, well, that's knowing your audience. No. That's knowing your audience. That's knowing how to speak to them. Like, Jason Aaron is given no agenda here. He writes the story that he wants to write. And he does a great job at it.
Yeah, took a lot of flack for it too.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I was actually told once when I picked up an issue of this run of Thor, the guy behind the stand said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sure." Like,
wow.
I think I'm paying you for this, right? Like, yes, I'm sure. I love this new Thor, and I'm a big fan of her.
Which side note, this is more for one of my other podcasts probably, but I do just want to mention it.
Yeah.
It does bother me a lot that you'll have a lot of your conservative Christians, lower C conservative Christians who do the whole, well, this is just feminism and feminism is bad and that's pushing LGBT and that's bad. And I'm like, okay, but you guys love Iron Man, who is the worst sinner of sinners in any comic ever. Like, come
the
on.
War Profiteer.
War Profiteer. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, in comic book version Iron Man, he gets drunk and kills children. Like, I'm like, you can't hold being a woman against someone and then turn around and support that guy. Like,
his Anakin Skywalker levels of bad.
Yeah, awful.
So, all of that being said, like, and that's really a lot of what people know. Like, people that haven't read the comics of this run of Thor, that's what they know. They know the controversy, they know the backlash, they know that part. The story itself is so awesome, and it gets maybe so underappreciated because people paint with a broad, like, oh, female Thor, I'm not reading it.
And I'll add the art too. Like, there's one thing you're telling a story, but you can tell that Jason Aaron trusts his artist. And there's some of these panels have very little words on it, and they're showing it with the art and the action of what's going on. And so the facial expression of the thing. So when you enjoy this run, we all bring our baggage to whatever movie or story we're diving into, or novel or whatever. But yeah, open your heart and mind and life and say, I'm just going to go along for the ride and see what they're trying to tell here. And if it's not your bag, if it's not your cup of tea, because at the end you just wear that, then that's fine. But if enjoy the ride, the art, what they're trying to, the questions they're wrestling with.
Which this might help us propel forward a little bit, but to go along with that, pretty much all of issue 2, 3, and 4 is just fight scene. So if you just like some visual comics where you just see fighting, I'm like, yeah, that was good.
There's because Will was talking about how the art speaks, and Josh, you just mentioned like how the art, like it's just a fight scene, like just look at it as a fight scene. There is a page in here where she's kind of tapped into this new ability that Mjolnir can do, where she throws the hammer and it just like does these it like goes through things and it goes around things, and it's flying on its own through things, and she destroys 2 of these ice creatures. And then she walks away, and then she thinks to herself, "Oh man, wow, I gotta think of something badass." And then she says, "She's like, still hungry?" And I'm like, yes, all the time. Yes. There's a lot of great art in here. I mean, really, there.
Yeah. The big difference of that scene and a Spider-Man fight scene is Spider-Man would have out loud said, "I got to think of something." Like, I need something to say now.
She's like internally struggling, and out comes nothing but badassery. And Spidey's like, "Gee golly, I wonder what I'm gonna say." The conclusion of this issue centers around Dario Agger, who is the Minotaur, the CEO of Roxxon. He's for lack of a better term, he's a massive jerk. He's very self-absorbed. Him and Malik
corporate CEO, right? He's got
he's maybe he's a message that people are trying to send. But I honestly, I would be irresponsible if I didn't mention that Ulick the Troll shows up here. Listeners to Across the Bifrost know Ulick is my guy, and I can't wait to talk. I will never miss an opportunity to talk about Ulick. Ulick is like the head of security for Roxxon, which is like so random and so awesome. But Ulick shows up, in the Frost Giants, they take this Roxxon base and they put it up in the air and they freeze it, and it's just kind of a cool set piece.
Oh, go back! I didn't even notice this before. You have the Dark Elf. How do you say his name? Malik. Yeah. He's wearing Thor's arm as a scarf.
Oh yeah.
So like, dude, he's so creepy. He's just a creepy villain, and very, what a good villain. But wearing Thor's arm like a scarf is
he's very, very just creepy and quirky. I love Christopher Eccleston. I don't blame him. I actually love Thor the Dark World. I'm one of the only ones, but they didn't get the Malekith character right at all.
Joshua, we cannot talk about Dark World right now. We will be here for hours if we talk about it.
Okay, I'll stop.
There's the teaser for next week.
Well, look, I wanted to reflect before I have to get off here.
I want to
on the All Father, All Mother, because we talked about it a lot.
Go right ahead.
We're not gonna quite get to the issue where some of this comes to light, but we see it's just such a fun parallel, because we see this depiction that people think of God like Odin, where he's angry and he's like, we're gonna stop this, and he can't let somebody be a woman. We can't have this. We can't have this. We can't. Thou shalt not. Right. And then you have the All Mother, who is trying to be gentle, is trying to be concerning. And it's really fun. And if you bother reading, the whole fruits of the spirit passage, she is showing all of the fruit, and he is showing all of these signs of the flesh that's given in that same book of the Bible.
Yeah.
And yet, so many of us think of God like that and not like the All Mother. And I'm like, y'all, I think we're missing it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They definitely give off both the good aspects of the role and the tyrannical aspects of the role. I mean, Odin has never been a great guy. Like the idea that Odin is this,
except for in the movies. Yeah.
So the idea that Odin is giant Santa Claus in the sky who just like dispenses wisdom like some mystical Pez dispenser. Like Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of Odin is awesome, but it is not accurate.
Even going back to Norse mythology, way back to when it originated, thousands of years ago, Odin's not meant to be, Santa Claus in the sky, granted wish. That's why Thor was always the favorite, right? Thor's the one who brought the storm and brought relief and the rain when he needed it. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Which last teaser, and then I'm gonna peace out.
Okay.
Since we're not getting to the other issues yet. Y'all, issue 4, when Thor questions, is this his mother? Because, all of these signs I'm talking about, the fruits of the spirit that she's showing, it's like, oh, it's got to be her. It's totally worthy. I won't say what she does, but there's a panel where it just shows Thor's face after she proves it's not his mother. And it is one of the best drawn facial expressions in all of comics. And if you haven't seen it, just find that one page if you can.
Hey Joshua,
that right there.
And tell them what happens, because this is going to be a mishmash of different things.
Okay. Listen. So
we're
girl
all
Thor,
looking at the image right
at
now.
this point, we're all kind of like, this is probably his mother, because that's what all the signs are showing with the parallels of Odin and the All Mother, and then Thor and girl Thor, and then girl Thor kisses Thor. And he just has this face of just complete and utter awe. Like, I don't think that's my mom.
He's just like, I have so many feelings right now.
Yeah. She literally says, still think I'm your mother? And he's like, I certainly hope not.
That was the panel that you wanted to get to, right?
That is my all-time favorite, just if I had to pick an all-time favorite panel, it might be that. Because that alone says everything I need it to say. Like that has its own story just right there.
And you can just can you imagine the mandate coming down? Like Jason Aaron sends an email to Russell Dodderman's like, hey, we got to throw people off the scent here. So how about we do this?
I want this panel to be its own meme. Like I feel like it should be. But anyway,
we'll make that happen.
Oh yeah.
Joshua, thank you for jumping on for this portion of the discussion, man. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, man.
All right. Peace.
See ya.
So we're going to jump right into issue 4. Josh is no longer with us, but he already know Josh's favorite part of this issue, the one part of this entire arc that he wanted to talk about. So go and just re-listen to Josh break that down. He really wanted to get that in there before he had to leave. We're going to break apart number 4 here just by asking Will a simple question. Will, this was the issue where regular Thor, the Thor we've come to know and love, classic Thor Odinson, shows up and he has a showdown with Jane amidst all of the ice giant Malekith stuff. There's a lot going on in this last issue of the arc. What were your thoughts and your takeaways from this issue as a whole? Did you see anything in here that you really stood out to you?
Well, I love that kind of classic Marvel trope that you have two heroes bump against each other and they're not sure who each other is, and they're kind of like, what's your role, what are you doing? They get in a fight and a scuffle, and then eventually they come to understand that they're literally on the same team, that they're fighting the same fight. And so, man, how much do we do that in life? You're like, wait, I don't know if I like you, I don't know. Oh, wait, You like Star Wars, I like Star Wars. You like Thor, I like Thor. Did we just become best friends? Cool, let's work together. So that happens all the time in real life. And here we are, two heroes who are wrestling with who they are right now. Thor is having a big identity crisis. Jane is like, who am I? She got dual dialogue going in her head, what she's doing, or actually trying to figure out who she is. And then you get to see them kind of literally go toe to toe. And I think that's Aaron trying to show you that this new Thor can hold her own, not only against villains, but also against the OG Thor, the original Thor. Like, let's go toe to toe with this guy, and then they can kind of work together on what's next. So you eventually move to like this mutual respect for one another, which happens a lot in comics, which is kind of fun to see who would win in a fight between these two heroes. Yeah. And then eventually they become best buddies.
I feel like hypothetical arguments are what comic book fans do best. It's like we live in this world of hyperbole and theoretical, showdowns, and this is one that comes to life pretty vividly for at least a few pages in here, where Jane is testing her mettle against literally the person that she took the role from, and she stands even with him at the end. They are able to, they have this fight for a little bit, but then they turn to the ice giants, and it's almost like, they job these ice giants out, and they take care of them real easy. And then after the Malekith scoots away, being kind of the slime ball he is, and then all the heroes come back, all the heroes that have been frozen, and the warriors from Asgard, they all have these comments about about Jane, or about this new Thor. And one of my favorite moments in this, I pulled it up here. One of my favorite moments is when they've all come back. Spider-Man has this, I would say, a very typical Peter Parker response, where he was like, "Whoa, okay, this is new." And since we're a few days after the Spider-Man movie release, it was nice to see Spider-Man in this book just for a panel or two. He's like, "Does she have a superhero name yet? Because please tell me it's Thunder Woman, Thorita, or Lady Hammer Pants." It's the most Peter Parker thing, and that's how he would react to all this new stuff going on. So I'm glad we got to see a Peter Parker cameo here while all this other serious stuff is going on. And Thor makes it very clear, she is Thor now. I'm Odinson, she is Thor now, and the distinction is clear.
It's kind of nice. It's brilliant how Aaron removes all the main players off stage, literally freezes them so that they're not in the fight, so that she can prove herself. And then when they're thawed out so that they can take a look and see, were they conscious in that ice and they're able to watch the whole fight before them? I don't know. But the fact that like she's standing there and Odinson's like, yep, she's the one, that gives her some credibility among them. Yeah, Peter Parker being Peter Parker, like that Aaron captures voice pretty well. I think those quips is kind of what other people are thinking. He says out loud, so there's no need for thought bubbles. He just kind of says out loud whatever's going on in his head.
I love the quick aside, I love Spider-Man dialogue, because it all sounds like it should have been a thought bubble, but it came out of his mouth. That's just kind of Peter Parker's voice. I love Peter Parker's voice in really any version of Spider-Man. But the issue kind of wraps up with a little bit of a cliffhanger, because we thought Malekith was scooting away to do his own thing, and turns out he comes back and he and the Minotaur, Dario, are in cahoots together. So that shows up later on, but it's just to let us know that like Malekith's got a grand plan, and a lot of the little seeds of the War of the Realms continue to get sprinkled there. It's Jason Aaron being a master storyteller. And
talk about being like a master plan. I mean, Jason Aaron has his master plan of what's going on down the road. Like this was happening way before War of the Realms was like even announced as an event. Marvel loves their events, but all this stuff is just paving the way for, I mean, it's great storytelling in and of itself, but so that's what keeps me glued to a comic, right? I want to know what's going on there. I want to see resolution, but I also want to see some mystery boxes and some Easter eggs and some kind of continuity, ... Something's going to have to be continued to keep me into this book. Not only the last page reveal, that cliffhanger, but also, I want to keep following the story to see how that plays out later on. And Aaron does a masterful job with that.
This story about the ice giants and Roxxon and Malekith, for the time being, is concluded. It's put on pause, and we believe, if we're viewing the story through the character's eyes, we believe that we've found resolution. Right. And the next issue, the last issue that we're going to talk about today, is kind of a little bit of an aside to see. Josh mentioned this earlier, the distinction between the All-Mother and the All-Father. We get to see what the All-Father thinks of this new Thor, and then later on in this issue we get to see what the All-Mother has to say to this new Thor. So I'm just gonna throw open this question again. Things that jumped out at you from this issue, that you liked, that were curious about, things that just caught your eye from this last issue we're going to talk about.
Well, I think, all mythologies, the grand stories that humans have told, to either entertain or to help us process the big questions we're wrestling with, I think they reveal kind of the dynamic of family and messy relationships. And I think that's what's going on here. Whether it's Norse mythology or Greek mythology, whatever mythology you want to pull up, there is real life scenarios that people are wrestling with. So I'm wrestling with my brother. I'm wrestling with my dad, my mom. Are they legit or not? What's my identity? What's my role? Oh, they have expectations for me, and I'm not meeting their expectations. And so here we have this kind of play of this divine drama of the Odin, All-Mother, All-Father, and then Thor, and whether she is legitimate or not within the family. So you could see like the frustration of Odin. He's like, wait a minute, like I've invested a lot of time into this hammer and my sons and stepsons and this family, and who's this newbie coming? And and so you can understand that, but then I like how the All-Mother is calling him out, because he's not perfect. These gods are not perfect. They have their own character flaws in how they deal with the world and deal with one another. And I like how they're honest with each other in the midst of all that.
There's so many, like you just said, family, and really Thor throughout the decades, it's the most blatant superhero family soap opera in Marvel Comics, because the whole family gets involved all the time. Like Thor and Odin are constantly disagreeing. Loki is literally the biggest thorn in the side that any brother has ever been. And the All-Mother in this version has a very strong presence, and her voice is definitely, as Josh said earlier, it's played in contrast to Odin so distinctly. And so I think family is a big thing here, and like Jane just gets dropped right in the middle of it. And she it gets bombarded from all these viewpoints, from Thor, thinking of her as a usurper, and the All-Mother at the end saying basically, hey, you've got it, own it, like just if you're be worthy of the name, like you want to know what to do, well, just be worthy. And Odin is trying to find any way that he can to stop her. We know the Destroyer comes into play soon after this. He sends his one of his most diabolical weapons against her. So Odin, not a fan. There's an interaction though outside of the family that I really love, because I love me a good Crusher Creel Absorbing Man appearance. And he and his wife Titania show up. They're just wreaking general mischief, in New York. And Jane goes to confront them, and Crusher says some of the most misogynistic, like terrible things to her, and she completely dispatches him and puts him to shame. And she's like, you know what, I don't sweat you. I can, this is going to keep happening. And that's a lot of what I read that as, is like Jason Aaron saying like, hey, this is the way it is now. Like, get freaking used to it.
Yeah, almost like he's talking over their heads to the fan boys and fangirls out there that are they're having problems with this. And so he's like, all right, yeah, this is what's really going on the message boards and when people first heard this news that this was happening. So he's addressing it right up front through these characters. And with the All Mother, I do think like for a while there in those first few issues, we were literally thinking that she was the new Thor.
Yeah.
And so when that wasn't the case, and then she's speaking for the new Thor, the goddess of thunder, that gives almost even more credence and credibility to Jane, because you have this person you thought could be Thor, and they're like, no, here you go. She's gonna own it and go for there. She's got her back. So you're like, okay, cool. I'm glad someone's on her team and has her back.
Yeah. There's another small interaction in here that I just want to hit on before we kind of shut this one down, and it's Thor's interaction with Sif, where Thor goes to the bar and he's kind of drowning his sorrows. He's asking a lot of questions, and Sif is so done with him. She has had it with this guy, and we kind of get the first inklings of like, okay, Thor's gonna go through a process here. It's not just going to be like, it's not going to be a Stan Lee, Jack Kirby arc where like, oh, well, next month he's going to be back to being Thor. Like, this is going to take a while. And that led to, it's scenes like that remind me of the Unworthy Thor run of issues that really dug into like, what's it going to take for him to find answers, to find resolution. I think those scenes with Sif just kind of highlight how much of a journey this is going to be for him, and it truly is for a long time.
Yeah, so right around this time, remind me, was the spinoff book Unworthy Thor going right alongside this Thor, or was it a little bit later on? I know after this arc, Odinson's a part of this story, and so it's not like he's being sidelined or killed off just so you could have a new one. He's a part of that story, and so his journey kind of takes some, while not taking up so much room in Jane's book, he has his own book later on where he's really still wrestling with his of course Marvel wants to sell another Thor book with it, but to have him have his own story wrestling with his identity and the big questions he's faced is important stuff.
I don't know the exact timeline and how if they were parallel, or if my guess would be that Unworthy Thor kind of came a little bit after, because like this book to me is kind of establishing, it's the same Thor book, but it's establishing, okay, these two characters are on very different paths. This run of Thor only goes for 8 issues, and it spins off into the Mighty Thor and then the Unworthy Thor. That would be my guess, but I don't remember right now. I'm sure I can correct myself later.
Yeah, later on. But still, just in the fact that Jason Aaron has this plan and this whole, narrative in the fan base that, oh, you're just replacing Thor with a female version of Thor. No, they're all part of this story. The original Thor, Odinson, they're all interweaved. The family, Sif, Odin, All Mother, all of them are there, a part of this team in these books. And while they have their own story arcs, they're still part of the same universe, and fun to follow to see how it resolves and how it plays out.
So that being said, like we've come to the end of this portion of our Jane Foster journey. And I just wanted to give you one last kind of parting volley here, Will. Any final thoughts about these first 5 issues, really the establishment of this new Thor? And just leave people with your final thouts, I guess.
As we put a bow on this gift of a story,
and that's why Will Rose is here, everybody. For those well-timed Christmas references.
That's right. That I think, comics are like, man, I love comics just because it's just one of my favorite mediums of storytelling, because of the art and the style and the words and the serialized storytelling. And you can't wait to see what happens next in the story. And so these comics have their splash pages, and you're literally in awe of what they're creating as a creative team, as author and artist. But not only is it fun, entertaining, but these stories should also challenge us too. And so I think Jason Aaron has his oh my goddess moments, and he has his splash pages, and he's doing things with characters. Wow, that's really neat. That's cool. But he's also challenging his readers to kind of rethink and see his characters from a different angle. And so that question, is your God worthy or not, is a pretty important question, as a minister, as someone, a person of faith. I think that's something we should ask every day. What makes a God worthy? What are your gods, and what are you putting your faith into? And then is it worthy of your devotion or not? Are big questions. And I think pulling Thor through this, and even Jane, and we see like her story, and later on in these story arcs, what's going to happen when she picks up the hammer or not, are pretty deep questions that most people wrestle with. So I think that's what I love about the story arc and what it continues to do.
Yeah.
And what I hope they do with the movie. I don't know if you can't get into all of it, but I hope they use some of the source material to help see and ask those questions. And I think, in the MCU, Thor was wrestling with grief and trauma and his purpose, and we saw how that played out. He saddled up to the bar pretty long. You could see he sat up to the bar for a long time playing video games with his friend. But he's asking that question. I think that's what's doing. That's why I think the smart people in the MCU and Disney or whatever, like, here's a story arc that we can use, because it really goes deep.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, I'm so excited for that movie. It's gonna be everything. Like, what's crazy is it's gonna be everything, and yet there's so much more that you're right, they can't do all of it. But I really do hope that they're able to nail the parts that they're able to do. Like, and we're gonna talk about Love and Thunder for a long time. So I think we're about eight months out from the release of it at the time of this episode's release. So it's a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to, and really the story begins here. So
that's it.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm really excited for it, but I also have to kind of check my fanboy expectations too, because sometimes I know I do this with Star Wars movies and Star Wars characters. I'm like, I get my hopes up, and then those kind of hopes can sometimes be dashed because they're not doing exactly what I hope them to do. But I want to go in with an open mind. Just on a recent episode of our podcast, Systematic Geekology, we're talking about the Boba Fett character, where, like, I entered into some toxic fandom there myself. I found myself pulled to the dark side because they weren't necessarily doing the things I wanted them to do with these characters in the sequel trilogy, and what's going on with Boba Fett. And then here comes our savior, the Mandalorian, who kind of helps reboot and ground us. But I want to take what I've learned from me slipping to the dark side with my Star Wars fandom, with the next phase of the MCU, and with what they're going to do with Thor, because I love these story arcs so much. I want to go into this movie also being open. It might be a whole new different interpretation and different angle of looking at it. I'm going to go in kind of, all right, let me see what you got. What kind of story are you going to tell?
It's exciting. It's going to be a lot of cool new stuff. So before we leave you today, Will, as we part the Bifrost for the day, will you just let people know how they can reach out to you and kind of follow the creative stuff you and Josh are a part of? I would love to give you guys just a quick little shout out on this show, so people can go find you guys.
I can't remember if Josh will share this or not, but he's a part of a podcast called the Whole Church Podcast, where he talks to different traditions and denominations and kind of bring the church together. And that's how I met Joshua. And then we started geeking out about faith and science, and the intersection of faith and church with geeky fandom stuff, and said, hey, what if we did a show called Systematic Geekology? So Josh was kind of the brains behind that, and we kind of, it's a whole host of people from different backgrounds that are authentic geeks, where there is not some trap or Trojan horse where we're trying to say, oh, we like these geeky things, and we're going to like hand you some like conversion track at the end.
Yeah.
We literally and authentically love these stories and want to think of them on a deeper level of how they interact with this aspect of my life as a person of faith. And so that's what we do. Systematic Geekology. We pick a topic or a character or a story or movie, and we geek out on it, and then ask like, how can that help us go deeper in our faith? So that's what we do. There's a website, systematicgeekology.org. You can find us there. We're on social media as well. I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that if you want to kind of ask me questions about what I geek out on or have a friendly debate about Star Wars and MCU, I'll be happy to enter into that conversation with you.
You will find Will on social media at that surfer dude.
Yeah.
You're
well, I wish I had that handle. I don't have that handle, but I do post a lot of surfing stuff on my Instagram page. That's for sure. I geek out on surfing a lot. Growing up at the beach, meet a beach bum.
Yeah.
I did. There was a time in my life when I had hair like Thor, but not anymore.
Man. Oh my goodness, that's got to be a picture we got to find.
Yeah, we'll find it. It's out there.
So, Will, thank you so much for joining us today, man. We'll chat at you later, and we'll see you the next time you hop aboard the Rainbow Bridge, man.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
That is going to do it for our show today. I hope that you enjoyed this breakdown of Jane Foster as Thor, her first little adventure that she gets to go on. It was a whirlwind of emotions and action and just so much. What really makes a great Thor story, I feel like, was encapsulated in this conversation about the first few issues where she takes the hammer and the mantle of Thor. So, hope you enjoyed our conversation. We are going to be coming back to Jane a lot this next year because of the Thor film that's coming out, where Natalie Portman's going to reprise the role of Jane Foster, but she's going to have kind of a kick-ass addition to the character where she's going to become the mighty Thor. So, all of that being said, 2022 is going to be a huge year for us covering that era of Thor, the Jason Aaron era, the Aaron era. That sounded better in my head. But before we leave you today, I want to do a special year-end Ryan Recommends. So this year, I was thinking through a lot of the different things that I love, and I was thinking through the holidays, and I thought, it's the day after Christmas, but I'll recommend to you my favorite holiday movie. So for this episode, Ryan recommends that each and every Christmas you do what myself and my family do. We watch Christmas Vacation. Christmas Vacation is my absolute favorite Christmas movie of all time. It is the best. I rarely can go through a Christmas-themed situation and not think of or outwardly quote a Christmas Vacation line, moment. It's just my favorite Christmas. It's my favorite Christmas thing in entertainment. So go watch Christmas Vacation. The movie's been out for forever. So go and watch that, and I know you will enjoy it. So this is the last podcast of the year. I want to just say, again, thank you very much. I appreciate you all. If you feel like going and leaving a rating, a review, and subscription, that would be great. Spotify now allows you to rate, so you can rate on Spotify, so go ahead and do that. And that way in 2022, as we get closer to the movie, more and more people can find this show, The Thor Show. So more people can find it if you rate, review, and subscribe, and share it with a friend. I know Christmas was yesterday, but give the gift of Across the Bifrost. Give the gift of the mighty Thor. We got some great stuff coming up for you, and that's just stuff people won't want to miss. So don't give them an excuse to miss it. Share it with them. And if you're interested in joining our Patreon, we have some great bonus conversations over there that you can be a part of just for a few dollars more to help us upkeep the show and keep the show going, keep the lights on, keep the Christmas lights on. Go over there. Our Patreon has some great bonus content that's ready for you right now, just for a few dollars more, just for some shillings in the coffers. So that'd be a great way to support us as well. Everybody, thank you so much for a fantastic first year. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being a friend of the show. Thank you for joining us aboard the Bifrost. And remember, stay worthy.